All right, fellas, the Big Ten championship game. We got Penn State taking on Oregon. Penn State is actually coming into this game as a 3-point underdog. I think it's sitting at Monday. So when we're recording this, Penn State's only got one loss. Oregon's got none. You look at their schedules; they are eerily kind of similar. There's nothing really that stands out other than the Ohio State games, and we just saw how Ohio State looked this past weekend against Michigan with their loss going on there. But Penn State loses that game 20-13. Oregon beats them in that game 32-31. What are y'all's kind of insights on this game? And also regardless of who loses this game, I think the only person who can afford a loss is Oregon. I don't see that happening. I got Oregon winning this game comfortably. I'm not high on Penn State whatsoever outside of their defense kind of can show up, but I don't think their offense is much to really write home about. Um, Based on what I've seen from the little I've seen this year, and I just do not think that Penn State has been tested all that much. I don't think that conference is all that great outside of maybe two or three teams. But let me know who do y'all think is Penn State out if they lose this game as far as the college football playoff comes the day before we get the rankings tomorrow. So let me know what do y'all think about this game?
Yeah, and there's full predictions on this game right here, just because we are an SEC podcast specifically. We don't really get a chance to talk too much about other conferences until these type of moments in the season. But I think for Penn State, I think it is a total prove it moment. I think when you think about the Big Ten in total, you really might have one or two games in your season to prove who you are to the top five of the country. And Penn State has really had one big test, and that was Ohio State, and they failed that test in their home stadium. To me, that says it all. And to go and then see, like you said, Van, to see Ohio State drop in certain moments, it's kind of like, okay, cool. You can see these teams have really big negatives versus their really big pros. Now, to me, it's all about Penn State in this game. Oregon, you solidify yourself. You're going to make the playoffs. Whether you play your starters or your backups in this game, you're good to go. So to me, it's about Penn State and can you make this upset? Because I think personally, Penn State is out of here if they lose this game. I don't think that they really get in the playoffs if they lose this game, just because you really only got two slots for the Big Ten. That's just me. You got the Big Ten champion and you got another Big Ten team. Now, one thing we've not seen yet is how the committee is going to rank the loser of the conference championship game versus that third place conference team. You talking about Penn State versus Ohio State in this aspect. Just off of eye test, I'm giving Ohio State that edge. So to me, there's not going to be three Big Ten teams in this playoffs. Penn State, to me, in their totality, are not going to win this game versus Oregon just because Oregon is too well coached in my aspect. They got too much firepower. They got too much experience in these type of moments to lose this game. And Penn State, I just don't think you have enough. Coaching staff, not enough. Players on the field, not enough. Any way you look at this team, mistakes on the field, you just have too many of those. So it's like any way you think about it, it's not enough to get this job done. They could go upset this team, but that's the only way to me they get in the Big 12 playoff is by having a guaranteed spot by being the conference championship. And I just don't see that happening. I got Oregon winning this one really actually convincingly.
Yeah.
I'm not sold at all on Penn State at all. Seen them play a couple times this year. They pull away late from teams that they should have drubbed earlier in the game. James Franklin, good coach, not elite, good coach, middle of the pack, coaching a middle of the pack conference. I also have not seen a ton of Oregon, but I've seen enough of Penn State to know that they're going to lose this football game. Now, whether they make it to the playoff or not depends on how this game goes. I think it was a few years ago, Ohio State beat somebody 55-0 or 52-0 in a conference championship game, and that team that was supposed to possibly be in the mix got completely kicked out because of how they played the conference championship game. I think this could be one of those types of games where Oregon ends up winning 42-7, 48-10, 38-3, something like that. And the committee's just like, I saw nothing from Penn State. Now, granted, they were playing Oregon, but we saw nothing. I think it's going to be very easy to see nothing from Penn State this weekend, and it's not going to be based on their opponent. It's going to be based on who they actually are. Now, to give Penn State a flower or something, I'm going to have to go back to their defense. The defense looks relatively legitimate. I don't see them scoring enough points to keep this game close. I'm kind of with you, Drew. I mean, I'm saying kind of 50-50, listening to what you had to say about it. Two teams from the Big Ten getting it. I'm like, dang, really? But when you look at the conference and what they brought to the table, it really hasn't been much. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of been like, the SEC is really top heavy. The Big Ten is really top heavy. No, y'all are real top heavy. And we still don't know what you really got at the top, because I really think Ohio State kind of sucks. You know what I'm saying? What happened against Michigan with Ohio State was just deplorable to me. But it's not the conversation right now. But I think that does speak to the conference. You know what I'm saying?
Real quick, though, think about this aspect of it, though. You got Oregon, Big Ten, undefeated at this point. Next best is Indiana.
Yeah.
Who's a one-loss Indiana. After that, you got a 2-loss Ohio State. Then you have a 2-loss Penn State. I don't care how you shape it to me. I don't care if the game is a last-second field goal loss. Just the way of the order of the Big Ten, just understanding the teams in that back side of that conversation I just laid out, it's tough to get in. Who you going to put out and get them in?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. And, the Indiana experiment took care of itself last weekend, even though they're still kind of there. I guess it's the conference did not do what they were supposed to do from the beginning of the season. They just did not show up. The conference as a whole did not show up. All you got is Oregon sitting at the top that really only played Ohio State.
Yeah, two. You know
what I'm saying?
I think
and barely beat them.
Yeah, in my point to that, if we're just going for the sake of making this video a little bit longer, if we're talking about Indiana and these other Big Ten schools, look at everybody else in the field. I don't see Indiana dominating. I can see Oregon going into some of these games and having a Oregon style game, right? I see if they put them up against Boise, put them up against some of these other schools that's kind of trailing in the back half. I see Oregon taking care of business. I don't see Indiana coming into a game versus Boise State and for sure saying, "Hey, we're the better team." I think that would be actually a pretty on par ball game, if not a very close ball game. Because you got to remember, Boise State took on Oregon week 2 of the season.
I'll tell you this though: there's two teams that could be put in that 12-team playoff that can have that type of game, and that be exactly what the committee wants.
Yeah,
it's Indiana and Notre Dame. They
yeah,
can go in that 12-team playoff, and it's bigger playoff than we had last year, and lose in the first round, and everybody say, you know what, this is why the 12-team playoff is so perfect,
yeah,
because we get this underdog story. But to keep Indiana out, regardless of their schedule, to me, you really have to say the word best.
yeah. No, they're in
12 teams. Because I mean, to me, just the field that we're looking at, Indiana to me is going to be a top 6 team just off a record. I don't feel like the 12-team playoff is going to be a way where we can say record-wise, if your record's not better than the other team, you're not going to get in. I just don't see that happening in the 12-team playoffs just because we got so many slots. We can really find the last 4 best 2-loss teams.
Yeah, and
the best 1-loss teams and that one team that's just, undefeated.
Yeah, and we'll get into that, but it's the same thing with Penn State. I'm going down these rankings right now, just looking at the 12 from last week. I'll even take Penn State in there. I think Notre Dame can get
I think Penn State is a better team than Indiana.
You think they are?
Yeah, just for defense.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And Penn State. I think Notre Dame's better than Penn State too. I'll put him up there better than Penn State. I'll put Miami. Well, Miami's going to drop. Georgia will whoop them, both
Yeah.
Penn State and Indiana. Tennessee, I think, will handle them soundly. And I think Boise State will give them a run for their money. Anybody else
Mm-hmm.
is going to cream them. But if you just take a nose right there for face value, I think the Penn State dropped them down to 10 or 11 too. I don't think they're that good. I think if they lose, they out. I think this is their chance to punch their ticket. Oregon is in regardless
Yep.
of the outcome of this game. But Penn State has to win, no matter if they at 4 or 3, wherever they want to put them after this past weekend. Penn State's gone if they lose this game.
But making this point real quick, I know we're gonna touch to it, Sean. Making this point, look at how many SEC or not how many conference championship games are that scenario.
Mhm.
If the better team wins, they're 100% in, which we already probably bet they're in, whether they win the game or not. That underdog has to punch their ticket,
Mhm.
Right.
which is gonna make this weekend just the most spectacular football weekend we're gonna see in a long time.
Yep.
Just about the outcome of this game and what you're gonna do for that Sunday show.
Man, look, it's gonna be so good, and I have to remind the audience here why we expanded to 12 teams. The reason why college football expanded to 12 teams had everything to do with revenue and nothing to do with a Cinderella story.
Mhm.
That's the actual reason why this happened. All right. Now, because it happened, and because now you got 12 spots, there's gonna be a Cinderella in there, right? There's gonna be one or two in there. But revenue made this happen, Rob. That revenue made it happen. If y'all gonna put a first round matchup that looks anything, and I'm not saying this is what it is, but if you want to put Boise or Indiana, Penn State, Arizona State, you want to put these guys in the playoff, don't expect no ratings for that game. All right, don't expect no ratings, even from those teams' fan bases. Don't expect no real ratings, right? Boise don't got enough alum to make a dent in the TV rating. If every last one of everybody that graduated from Boise in the past 50 years watched the game, it's still not enough to get over Bama's potential eyeballs to the situation. Right? So I'm saying, let's just not forget, come Sunday, that revenue is driving this bus.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, hey, we'll get into some of these other games. Stay tuned. We'll get into we got ACC next, I believe. So if you're watching these in the order that they come out, hey, come back for the next one. We'll keep it going.